as George VI's health declined during 1951. Elizabeth frequently stood in for him at public events. When she visited Canada and Harry S. Truman in Washington, D.C., in October 1951, her private secretary Martin Charteris carried a draft accession declaration in case the king died while she was on tour. In early 1952, Elizabeth and Philip set out for a tour of Australia and New Zealand by way of the British colony of Kenya. On the 6th of February, they had just returned to their Kenyan home, Sugner Lodge, after a night spent at Treetops Hotel. When word arrived of the death of Elizabeth's father, Philip broke the news to the new queen. She chose to retain Elizabeth as her regnal name, and was therefore called Elizabeth II. The numeral offended some Scots, as she was the first Elizabeth to rule in Scotland. She was proclaimed queen throughout her realms, and the royal party hastily returned to the United Kingdom. Elizabeth and Philip moved into Buckingham Palace. With Elizabeth's accession, it seemed possible that the royal house would take her husband's name. In line with the custom for married women of the time, Lord Mountbatten advocated for House of Mountbatten, and Philip suggested House of Edinburgh. After his ducal title, the British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, and Elizabeth's grandmother Queen Mary favoured the retention of the House of Windsor. Elizabeth issued a declaration on 9 April 1952 that the royal house would continue to be Windsor. Philip complained, "I am the only man in the country not allowed to give his name to his own children." In 1960, the surname Mountbatten Windsor was adopted for Philip and Elizabeth's male line descendants who do not carry royal titles. Amid preparations for the coronation, Princess Margaret told her sister she wished to marry Peter Townsend, a divorced 16 years Margaret's senior with 2 sons from his previous marriage. Elizabeth asked them to wait for a year. In the words of her private secretary, the Queen was naturally sympathetic towards the princess. But I think she thought, she hoped, given time, the affair would peter out. Senior politicians were against the match and the Church of England did not permit remarriage. After divorce, if Margaret had contracted a civil marriage, she would have been expected to renounce her right of succession. Margaret decided to abandon her plans with Townsend. In 1960, she married Anthony Armstrong Jones, who was created Earl of Snowdon the following year. They were divorced in 1978. She did not remarry, despite the death of Queen Mary on 24 March 1953. The coronation went ahead as planned on 2 June. As Mary had requested, the coronation ceremony in Westminster Abbey was televised for the first time. With the exception of the anointing and communion, on Elizabeth's instruction, her coronation gown was embroidered with the floral emblems of Commonwealth countries.